Hey boys, it's HarmNone. Today I'm going to be going over the top 10 most fun vehicles in Grand Theft Auto Online for 2023. Now I made another one of these videos probably about 6, 7, 8 months ago, something like that. We've had some new vehicles into the game that I think are a little bit more fun. I've also had some more time to just play around in GTA and discover some more vehicles that are just a lot of fun. We are going to have some repeats from the last list because some things don't change. Some vehicles are just more fun than others, but a lot of these ones are going to be completely new for this list. So we're going to go ahead and start off with number 10. At number 10 we have what I still believe to be one of the most fun cars in all of Grand Theft Auto Online, especially for the money. This is of course the Bravado Gauntlet Hellfire, coming in at $745,000. Now the Hellfire is a pretty cheap muscle car, and what you get for your purchase price of $745,000 is a very fun muscle car as well. This thing's super quick in a straight line, but it's also very fun to take into the corners. Now it is a typical muscle car where it can't go around a corner the way that normal cars do. However, it can go around them quite sideways and generally be quite a pleasure to drift around. This car I find to be a lot of fun, mainly just because of its drifting abilities, but also just how wild this car is. You can do rolling burnouts with this car, you can drift it like I was mentioning. You can go super fast in a straight line once you actually get the wheels to grip up, which may take you several decades, but after you get the wheels to grip up, it does start going very, very quickly. Not the best muscle car for racing, but definitely one of the best muscle cars in the entire game, if not the best, for just having pure fun. So that's pretty much it for the Bravado Gauntlet Hellfire at number 10. Let's move on to number 9. Next up, we have the MTL Fire Truck. Now, this is an expensive one, and don't get me wrong, it's not the most fun vehicle ever, which is why obviously it's pretty high up on this list. However, it is still a really fun car. It goes for $2.5 million on Warstock Cash and Carry if you have the trade price unlocked, and up to $3.3 million if you do not have the trade price unlocked. Now, what makes the fire truck so fun is obviously it gets the water cannon. If you guys didn't know, the fire truck's water cannon actually does work, so as you guys can see, you can spray people down. You can knock them right over, and this water cannon is actually so powerful that you can actually kill people with it. So if you've ever ran into a griefer in GTA and you really want to mess with them, or even a hacker, the fire truck is very good because if they have a bad mod menu, or obviously if they don't even have a mod menu period, you can knock them down, and if they have a bad one, they won't have a ragdoll thing to prevent them from being knocked over. So this is actually a way that you can just troll hackers in GTA, which I think is really, really fun because I play on PC mainly, and if you know anything about the PC version of GTA, there's a lot of hackers. So I think that this is a very fun vehicle for this reason. Civilians will also get quite mad at you, and it's just pretty fun to ragdoll them around. I think it's kind of a hilarious vehicle. It's something a little bit different, something a little out of the ordinary, and I think that that is a very fun thing. So that's it for the MTL Fire Truck at number 9. Let's move on to number 8. Next up at number 8, we have the Cerberus. Now the Cerberus is actually similar to the fire truck, except instead of shooting water at people, it shoots fire. Which I think is arguably more fun. This thing cooks, man. So the UN is really not going to like this part of the video, so if you're part of the United Nations, I recommend clicking off right now, because as you get, oh Jesus, oh, I don't even know if I can put this on YouTube, honestly. Oh boy. Anyway, guys, yeah, the Cerberus is a pretty unique vehicle. It's, I believe, the only vehicle in GTA that has a flamethrower on it, which is pretty neat. That's kind of an underrated vehicle, I think, for this reason. I don't think that a lot of people really even know that this vehicle has this ability. So obviously that is pretty cool. In addition to this, you can also equip the Cerberus with a jump boost, and you can also equip it with a regular boost. So you can launch the thing forward and it'll absolutely go flying. You can also move vehicles out of your way pretty easily with this thing, which is nice to, you know, have that ability. And of course you can light them on fire as well if you need to. So yeah, you can jump and boost and do all sorts of things. It is a very large vehicle, so as far as maneuverability goes, I mean, chances are that's really not what you're thinking about when you're buying a Cerberus, but in case you were wondering, the maneuverability is a little bit challenging because it is just such a big vehicle. It's also quite slow, and the only problem that I really have with this vehicle is the armor of the vehicle is absolutely non-existent. This thing has no armor. It will take 1 RPG and it will die. So that is kind of annoying, but at the end of the day, it is still a really fun vehicle, and that's what got it onto this list. So there you have it, guys. That is it for the Cerberus at number 8. Let's move on to number 7. A vehicle that's a little bit less violent. Next up at number 7, we have the JB700W coming in at $1.5 million. The JB700 weaponized is based pretty heavily off of the Aston Martin DB5 or DB6 that was used in the James Bond films, which is why the name of this car is the JB, and then it's the 700, which is 007 backwards. And it's the W version, so that means that it can actually be equipped with front-mounted machine guns. These are actually pretty good. They do a pretty decent amount of damage, not the most ever, but far from the worst, I would say. As you can see, they're highly effective against runners, which is pretty good. And it can also be equipped with a proximity mine dropper. Now, you can choose which type of proximity mines that you would like on your car. I've chosen to go with the oil slick option. You can also have the spike option, which will destroy the vehicle's tires that detonate the mine. But I do think that the oil slick is kind of fun because obviously, as you guys can see, this car is just they're going drifting right now. So these are pretty fun options. They're definitely good to troll players. They're definitely good to mess around with the NPCs in GTA as well. So I think that this is a really fun car for these reasons. And for, you know, less than $1.5 million, it's really not a bad car for the money. It's pretty fast, it sounds really good, and it's got a lot of different things that you can do with it. I think that the spikes are pretty fun, the oil slick's pretty fun, and the machine guns are pretty fun as well. So I definitely feel like this car is deserving of being on this list. Anyway, guys, that's pretty much it for the JB700W. We've had this one on a previous list, so I figured I shouldn't talk about it too much. So anyways, let's go ahead and move on to number 6. Oh my god. Just so you guys know, NPCs will also slip on the oil, which is kind of hilarious. Next up, we have the brand new Manchez Scout C. Now, this is the delivery vehicle for the acid business in GTA, and it's pretty good. Now, you can also use the regular Manchez Scout off of Warstock for 225 grand, or you can use this one that comes for free with the purchase of your acid lab. But I mean, it doesn't exactly count as free because you have to pay 750k for the acid lab, but I mean, you do get the bike as kind of a bonus on top of it. This bike is super fun because it has an infinite wheelie, and it's also one of the only bikes in GTA that I find like easy to steer with while you're doing a wheelie, which I think is a kind of an underrated feature because it allows you to go as fast as possible, as much as possible, and also turn while you're doing it so you can you know, maintain your high speed, which I think is an awesome feature. This bike is also highly maneuverable. It's definitely more of a stuntable bike than some other bikes in GTA for sure. It feels like kind of a sporty dirt bike, and I think that is kind of a unique feature. We don't have too many bikes in GTA that are like this. I mean, we obviously have the other dirt bikes like the BF400 and the Sanchez, but I think that the Manchez Scout is kind of in a league of its own. I think usefulness wise, this thing is also, you know, just kind of in a league of its own. So definitely a pretty cool bike, definitely one that I recommend picking up. I mean, if you guys get the acid lab, you're gonna have this thing regardless of what you do, but I would definitely recommend calling it and going ahead and just messing around with it. And if you don't want to get the acid lab, you can just get the regular Manchez Scout, like I said, for 225 grand off of Warstock. So there you have it, guys. That is it for the Manchez Scout, or the Manchez Scout C. Let's move on to the next vehicle. Next up at number 5, we have the Pagasi Oppressor. This is the Mark 1, of course. This goes for $2.65 million, all the way up to $3.5 million if you get it without the trade price. Now, the Oppressor is an interesting vehicle in GTA because it's definitely been overshadowed by its predecessor, which is, of course, the Oppressor Mark II. But I think that this vehicle is definitely a lot more fun, and I respect people who use the Oppressor Mark I a lot more than I do those who use the Oppressor Mark II. This thing's really awesome because it has a gliding ability after you rocket boost, so you can, for example, do what I'm doing right here in this clip. You can fly around, glide around. It is super fun. You can also extend or retract the wings depending on if you are trying to glide or not. For example, if I want to stop gliding, I can simply just press X and I will lose the wings, and this thing will turn into a regular motorcycle with a rocket boost, which is pretty awesome. Definitely very fast. It's definitely a very quick way of traversing the map, and I think that it's a lot of fun to use the rocket booster and then go gliding around. I think that it's a very satisfying vehicle, especially when you do some, pretty cool glides around and get into some weird little places. And I find with this vehicle you can see some stuff that you usually probably wouldn't see with most other vehicles in Grand Theft Auto Online. So the Oppressor Mk is a pretty cool vehicle, definitely one that I would recommend picking up, especially if you're trying to have some fun in GTA. This thing will definitely supply you with a little bit of fun. So that's it for the Oppressor Mk. Let's move on to the next vehicle. Next up at number 4, we have the Declassy Scramjet. Now the Scramjet comes in at just under $3.5 million and is definitely one of the most fun vehicles in all of Grand Theft Auto Online. I'm pretty sure that I did include this vehicle on the last list because it still really hasn't changed. It is still an absolute blast to drive. This vehicle comes with a jump boost as well as a rocket boost, which will allow you to, well, obviously navigate the map in kind of a unique way. It's a cool vehicle, and especially for the price point, I don't think that it's super overpriced, which is kind of nice. The Scramjet has front-mounted machine guns, and it also has front-mounted homing missiles. The homing missiles on this thing are really good. Definitely better than most of the other vehicles in this game. I believe they're the second tier of homing missiles, which is pretty good, and they're definitely pretty useful. So guys, that's pretty much it for the Scramjet at number 4. Let's move on to number 3. Next up, we have the Deluxo coming in at $3.6 million. The Deluxo is certainly one of the most fun vehicles in Grand Theft Auto Online, based pretty heavily off of the DeLorean, and it has a lot of Back to the Future sort of references to it as well. The vehicle is pretty cool because it can go into a full hover mode, which is awesome. And then on top of this, you can also fly the vehicle entirely, which is really neat. Now, it's not the fastest vehicle ever when it's flying especially, nor when it's hovering, but nonetheless, they are cool abilities to have. It also has front-mounted machine guns, and it has some of the most aggressive tracking homing missiles in all of Grand Theft Auto Online, meaning that if you get into a fight with something like an Oppressor Mk or anything of the sort, even fighter jets or helicopters, you're going to be able to kill them pretty easily with the Deluxo. And it's also very easy to dodge oncoming missiles with this vehicle as well, because for some reason it's just super hard to hit. It is very maneuverable. As you guys can see, you can change directions in this thing very quickly, making it definitely in part quite hard to hit and quite hard to track as well for the kind of dumb homing missiles in Grand Theft Auto Online. It's definitely a fun vehicle to just cruise around in. Having the ability to hover is quite nice, so it is kind of useful, especially if you're up in Blaine County and you need to get across the lake up there. You can use the Deluxo for that, and it will not give you much of a problem because it can just glide across the top of the water. So that's pretty much it for the Deluxo, guys, at number 3. Let's move on to number 2. Next up at number 2, we have a brand new vehicle in Grand Theft Auto Online. This is of course the Brigade 6x6, which has the acid lab in the back of it. You can get this thing for $750K once you complete 6 initial DAX missions and a setup mission for the vehicle, and it is a really fun one in GTA for sure. One of the most armored vehicles in the entire game, on top of everything else that I'm going to mention about this. It also has this front-mounted ram bar that you can put on this thing, which will allow you to knock anything out of your way. So as you guys can see, we're going to go on an absolute tear here on the highway, just knocking every vehicle that's in my way and getting it right out of my way. The vehicle's so big that it doesn't really get negated by hitting any of these cars. It doesn't seem to really slow down at all. It's still going at full tilt, which is super awesome. As you guys can see, I'm flinging cars everywhere, and it can just cause kind of a lot of chaos. So I think that this vehicle is really fun simply just for this reason. Also, it can make you money and everything like that, so it's pretty useful to have as well. But I think that the most fun part of it is just being able to go down the highway and just absolutely launch vehicles out of your way. Also, like I mentioned earlier, with the Manchester Scout C, you do get access to that bike via having this vehicle. So there's another vehicle that you get, basically 2 for the price of 1 with getting the acid lab. So anyway, guys, that's pretty much it for the acid Acid Lab at number 2. This thing is a blast. It's time to move on to the number 1 most fun vehicle in Grand Theft Auto Online. And the number 1 most fun vehicle in all of Grand Theft Auto Online, in my opinion, of course, is the Phantom Wedge. Now, the Phantom Wedge is essentially a Brigade 6x6 just on crack. This thing is super, super good, especially for just knocking vehicles out of your way. It does it in just a much more dramatic fashion than the Brigade 6x6. It absolutely launches vehicles out of the way. Going down the highway in this vehicle is one of the most fun things you can do in this entire game, in my opinion, as far as vehicles go. Definitely, it's a pretty unique way of traveling in GTA, and launching these vehicles out of the way as you go is a pretty fun time, I have to say. You can cause some true chaos with this vehicle, and I think that that definitely makes it one of the more fun vehicles in the game. The Phantom Wedge is going to run you a lot of money to buy it, however. $1.9 million for the trade price and $2.6 million without the trade price. So, in my opinion, you might be a little bit better off to just go for the Brigade 6x6, because it essentially will do the same thing as the Phantom Wedge, just to a lesser effect, but it does have a lot more useful features, like obviously containing the Acid Lab and being one of the most armored vehicles in the game, whereas the Phantom Wedge is a little bit on the weaker side. Anyway guys, that's pretty much it for the Phantom Wedge. This thing is an absolute blast to have in GTA. Definitely one of my favorite vehicles in the game, definitely one of the most fun vehicles in the game as well, and 100% it is one that you guys should check out. So there you have it guys, those are the top 10 most fun vehicles in Grand Theft Auto Online for 2023. If you guys enjoyed this video, a like is of course appreciated, if not dislike. Subscribe to my channel if you guys are new, and I will see you all in the next video. Until then, take care. Peace.